I'm honoring a little whimsical moment here. I noticed I was giving off a Morticia Adams vibes. I'm honoring this young side of myself that is funny and likes to be silly. I remember calling her Kooky when I was little. So a couple things came up that I want to speak about. One is that when I began, I haven't done this in a while, the recording for YouTube, but I began this many years ago from the need to, rather than go live on social media, the need to just sit and be in a space that is not plugged into the vast networks of energy. Um, there was a time, maybe about 20, 25 years ago, where if I was in a conversation in a group of people, I would be so distracted by my thoughts and by the energy of yeah, it could be the energy of other people being sensitive, but I'm aware it's also the thoughts of perception and being perceived, by uh, this gaze that we grow up in our culture, with our parents, with the schooling, with the elf on a shelf, and Um, it's this idea of we must always be mindful about how we present ourselves. So I'm feeling playful about that right now and honoring that playfulness and remembering how useful it is to walk your own path and do things differently, doing what feels right for you. So I'm going to tune into that and see what else wants to come through about that. And the first thing I feel is the ground beneath me, and that the purpose is to ground. And so, whatever tools you have to ground yourself, use them, whether it is uh, a ritual of meditating without distraction, or if what grounds you is more connective and dancing in a circle of people, having conversations. And for me, all of these meet me and at different places, different times. I have a need for different things. I am a multidimensional being, as are you, and I've never been able to confine myself to one box, one definition. I'm always shifting and changing and growing, as we all are. So this is also, let this be an encouragement to liberate yourself from the definitions that you or others have placed you in, and allow yourself to remember the many ways that you express, connect, ground, soothe. And on that note, I want to dive a little deeper. It's very easy in times of great distress and crisis to self-soothe in ways that actually don't support life to thrive, especially long term. And what I've noticed in myself, in the aftermath of crisis, and in the midst of new crisis in the world, and how impactful that is even tangentially, um, adding and compounding to the mundane daily life of raising free people in this world. I have two teenage daughters, 13 and 16, and being in partnership and relationship and being in a constant environment where um, I can't withdraw and ground when what is necessary is to show up immediately for someone less helpless than myself, like a child, and repairing damage and, mending between arguments that have nothing to do with me, but that I am here to shepherd and be a steward of. This distracts and takes time away from being able to process and self-care and self-soothe around the things that are affecting me, either with my, um, situations. I have a father with Alzheimer's and, um, work, life, relationships, and on top of the personal, on top of the macro and my relationship to the world. So how do I ground? I, being someone who used to get highly impacted by and distracted by other people's energies. Sometimes I don't. Sometimes I lose my balance and get angry, and I'm not the picture of peace that you see before you, and that people often growing up always said that I always seem so peaceful and calm and cool and collected. This is true. I walk this way in life. And it's also true that I'm a human with the full gamut of emotions and an interior life that can become tempestuous and, reflect all the various stages and elements of nature. We are the earth. I am the wind. I am the storm. I am the rain. I grieve. Uh, And yet, the practice is knowing always this ground. I am here. I'm a spirit. I'm a soul. I am, I won't say not of this earth because I am of this cosmos. There's nothing separating me from um, the source, the material, the elemental metal and mineral of stardust, and yet I'm here. And the reminder is to ground and be rooted. This hair, my branches, this toroidal flow of energy is always going to be connected to source and where I come from, where we come from. Um, and I belong here. Now, is it safe? Is it safe to belong here? What is the physical experience my body is having? What is the physical experience my body is remembering from my ancestors and in my DNA? Remembering from lifetimes as a human on this earth. Um, Learning detachment from the emotional while honoring, paradoxically, ironically, the truth and connection. you know, we must honor our grief. We must honor the truth of our feelings, even while we discern how thoughts can affect and get ourselves hooked into stories that create felt experiences of reality that can switch and flip with a perspective switch, that a mindset shift where nothing has changed, but suddenly the glass is half full instead of half empty. The more we can come down and connect with this earth and tolerate and realize that we survive these waves of feeling or perception, the safer it becomes. The more that energy of it feeling unsafe, that the memory gets transmuted. It's coming up for us to acknowledge, to be present with. That's why we're here, grounded here, to be present with this moment and ourselves in the trajectory of moments and experience of pleasure. Experience of pleasure, of the silliness. Why does the silliness and humor exist? Why is that a possibility? Is it a pleasant one? Is it a pleasant experience? Why would I negate that? Why has there been so much shame placed upon that? I remember, and perhaps it's not shame, but I remember just what's the word? I just lost it. Uh, Embodying, integrating the introject, right? Accepting as truth the idea that it is more valuable to be serious. It is more valued to be serious. I went around it as a young woman with my hair tied in a bun, very serious. And there is that serious side of me that is a part of, my identity and my ego, my connection to a certain family line of proud, stoic uh, spirits. And yet, if that negates another aspect of truth that brings beauty and joy and pleasure into the world, then there's an imbalance. So I have practiced coming into balance through a bridge, right? This is not a place where I want to, isolation is not a place where I want to live, but it is a bridge and a tool that I use to remove myself from the exposure of influence, of energies, for whatever reason, that from trauma, from childhood, from other energetic patterns passed down, whatever reason, it almost doesn't matter to get bogged down into thinking about the specifics of reason. For whatever reason, these distractions affect me. So I remove myself in, okay, I'm thinking two things at once. Referring back to this practice where I would get on here and videotape a recording before transmitting it live. That allowed me to uh, ground my nervous system so that I wasn't distracted. And I do that in life too. I have a family and friends and activities, and I love having this house full of people and children and friends and family. And yet I also value and know when I need to circle up with myself and feel the ground. And I can even do that in the middle of a party. So if you need to remove yourself or just create that bubble in yourself for even a breath while you're at work, feel your connection to the ground. There's so many practices for this. You can really sense your your energy moving downward versus moving upward and out of your body and into this state of fear, paralysis, avoidance, making yourself small to become invisible, numbing to not feel. Expand, ground, expand yourself, if you can imagine that, to hold whatever it is you're holding. There's a lot we're holding. And we don't need to carry it all. Carry it all. Lean back into the arms of the divine. Feel yourself held by this earth, and that there's so much support holding this with you. And that you don't need to figure it all out. You don't have to have all the answers. And that you can breathe and feel grounded and safe and supported even when you don't know, even when you don't know the answers. And you put one foot in front of the other, even if all you know is right now, I need to just breathe, right? And very often those moments for me used to be like, oh my God, let me go have a cigarette. I used to smoke 2 packs of Marlboro Reds every day by the time I was 17 years old. Yeah, I got a lot out of my system at a young age and engaged with a lot of medicine in unconscious and conscious ways of remembering. But yeah, I think about journeying with psychotropic healers and the awareness I had at such a young age and the expansion, the expansive connection to the multiverse and that awareness is really helpful. It's really helpful to remember that. And you don't need drugs. You don't need even to ingest plants. You can just connect to the truth of that energy, connect to the truth of the spirit of this great oak tree that stands sentinel, this guardian outside my home. We are all connected. There's nothing that we can move through rocks. There's nothing physically that separates us. We're only material because of how the sound waves slow down or speed up and are consolidated. But the light of love moves through and connects us all in consciousness. So I've taken a little journey here from embracing silliness and this idea of the Morticia Adams vibe going on here with this hair that is unwashed and embracing the playfulness of being human and all the myriad experience of that in the paradox of this beautiful world with intense destructive forces of both nature and unnatural. And what is the closing message I want to leave here? I'm feeling a sense of a universality, right? That I'm sharing in this moment, and we know what's going on in the world and the fires in LA and a lot of suffering on Turtle Island in Palestine, Ukraine, just Congo, everywhere throughout history, like the reverberations of that are felt in our body. Our children feel it. So know that it's so much bigger. It's so much bigger than ourselves. And that if you're feeling overwhelmed and ungrounded, just know, normalize that. Don't add stories on top of it that you're bad or wrong or that you should do better or all the shits. Just focus on the breath and grounding that energy downward and feeling held and supported, even if you don't have any physical people in your life that you feel you can trust to hold you that way. Begin to align with the vibration of that truth. And one breath at a time, your experience of this soul embodied journey will shift one step at a time. Give yourself the grace and invite the memory of your inner child to open their heart to any moments of pleasure, of playfulness, serendipitous silliness. You know, even if you're just giggling to yourself and not sharing it with anybody, as I just did. um, and then I was inspired to share it with you. So I close with a prayer that we ripple out the energy and frequency of the kind of energy that children feel safe in. Yeah, let's sum it up that way. Because that is what sustains the children in those war-torn areas. Oof, I've got chills grounding down through my calves and shins into this earth. Tune into that. Amplify the frequency of playful innocence, joy, and love in your body, in the body of this earth, out into the world. Amen. Aho, Ashe. Inanna Rakma, all is love. May it be birthed through the womb and rooted in the earth. Namaste.